Giant Man 2, Inactive. Real name, William Barrett Foster. Occupation, biochemist. Identity, secret. Legal status, American citizen with no criminal record. Former aliases, Black Goliath. Place of birth, Watts, Los Angeles, California. Place of retirement, Los Angeles, California. Known relatives, Claire Temple, ex-wife. First appearance, as Bill Foster, Avengers number 32. As Black Goliath, Power Man number 24. As Giant Man 2, Marvel 2-in-1 number 55. Final appearance, as Giant Man 2, Marvel 2-in-1 number 85. History. William Foster spent his childhood in the Watts ghetto. His natural intelligence and the influence of several good people helped him to leave the ghetto, however, and attend California Technical Institute. There, Foster worked toward a degree in biochemistry and met and married Claire Temple, a medical student. Upon graduation, Foster landed a job at Stark Industries' Baltimore Research Center and began to work his way up the corporate ladder. As he did so, his relationship with Claire disintegrated and they divorced. When Henry Pym, the Avenger once known as Goliath, see Yellow Jacket, became trapped at 10 feet tall when his growth serum yielded unwanted side effects, Pym's friend Tony Stark recommended his employee Foster to assist Pym in concocting a cure. For several months, Foster worked with Pym in Pym's private laboratory in New Jersey, analyzing and testing Pym's growth formula. Together, the biochemists found a cure for Pym. Shortly thereafter, Foster returned to Stark Industries, where he was promoted to head of the biochemistry division of the Stark plant in his native Los Angeles. Fascinated by Pym's research, Foster synthesized some of the growth compound, whose formula he had memorized in his months of work with Pym. Foster hoped to eliminate all of its harmful side effects. Eventually, Foster tested his formula on himself and found he had successfully duplicated Pym's powers. Taking a vacation from his duties at Stark, Foster devised a plan by which he might win back the affection of his ex-wife, Claire Temple. He wrote her about how he worked with Pym and duplicated his powers, but deceived her into believing that he, like Pym, had been trapped at giant stature. She agreed to meet him to see what help she could provide. They rendezvoused at a traveling circus where he said he had to work in order to earn money to continue his research. Foster had outfitted himself in costume and was being billed as Black Goliath. Temple's current boyfriend, Luke Cage, see Power Man, had followed her, however, and the two men fought over her. They settled their differences long enough to join forces against the Ringmaster and his circus of crime. Temple chose to remain with Cage rather than her ex-husband, so Foster returned to Los Angeles, his shameful ploy having failed. Although he had fashioned a costumed identity for himself, Foster was uncertain whether he should use it to fight crime, considering the circumstances in which he fashioned it. With the encouragement of Henry Pym, he decided to try. On his first outing, Black Goliath encountered the Atom Smasher, a criminal able to emit radioactivity from his body, and he was bombarded with deadly radiation. This bombardment immediately produced harmful side effects, making his size transformations painful and causing him to black out occasionally. Before Black Goliath was able to defeat the Atom Smasher, his foe was killed by a sniper who, he learned some years later, was hired by the Atom Smasher's own brother. Ignoring the symptoms of radiation poisoning, Black Goliath tried to distinguish himself as a crime fighter, battling such menaces as Vulcan, the Stilt Man, and the Hijacker, and aiding the champions of Los Angeles and the Thing. When it became difficult to ignore his illness, Foster took a leave of absence from Stark West to become a consultant at Project Pegasus, an upstate New York research facility. There ostensibly to do research on the corpse of Atom Smasher, Foster actually hoped to use the staff and facilities to help him arrest the debilitating effects of radiation on his body. He concealed the real reason for his presence from his co-workers until, while in battle with the matter-devouring Nth Man, he explained his plight as he prepared to sacrifice himself. By this time, Foster had fashioned a new costume for himself and, at the suggestion of his friend the Thing, assumed the name Giant Man. After his superhuman co-workers managed to rescue him from the Nth Man, Project Security Chief Wendell Vaughn, see Quasar, arranged to have a team of top radiologists assist Foster in a cure for his condition. When the resources of the project were exhausted without success, Foster left. Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four studied Foster's radiation-ravaged cellular structure for several days before admitting that it was out of his area of expertise. Richards sent his colleague, the Thing, to Canada to enlist the aid of a radiation specialist, Dr. Walter Lankowski, who was secretly the superhuman Sasquatch. Lankowski's abilities were stymied by Foster's state of deterioration as well. Foster finally decided to leave Richard's custody and return to Los Angeles to put his affairs in order. Escorted by the Thing, Foster checked in with Stark West just as the brother of the Atom Smasher, who had duplicated the original's powers, raided the plant. The Thing, Foster, and Spider-Woman, who had been on the Atom Smasher's trail, battled the atomic criminal, hoping that he might hold the key to Foster's cure. That avenue also proved fruitless. However, as a result of the process that gave her superhuman powers, Spider-Woman possessed a unique factor in her blood that made her immune to radiation and all toxic poisons. Willingly, she submitted to a blood transfusion with Foster at the expense of losing her immunity factor permanently. The transfusion managed to arrest Foster's cellular decay, saving his life. However, because of the damage the radiation had already done to his cellular structure, Foster could never again stand the strain of size changing. Thus, William Foster put away his Giant Man costume permanently and devoted the rest of his life to scientific research. Height, as Foster, 6 feet, as Giant Man, variable. Weight, as Foster, 200 pounds. As Giant Man, variable. Eyes, brown. Hair, black. Powers. Giant Man possessed the ability to accrue mass from an unknown, presumably extra-dimensional source, enabling him to increase in height to a maximum stature of about 25 feet. He generally attained a stature of 15 feet for most of his crime-fighting activities. At 15 feet, which is 2.5 times his original height of 6 feet, Giant Man's mass, or weight, increased by the cube of the factor of 2.53, or 15.625, giving him a weight at 15 feet of 3,125 pounds. After his initial ingesting of the PIM formula, he was able to accrue and shed this additional mass at will with no harmful side effects. It is not known precisely how he determined the specific size he wished to become. Presumably, it involved biofeedback, an acute awareness of bodily conditions. There appeared to be no limit to how long Giant Man could remain in his expanded form. The longest period of time he had ever attempted had been 3 weeks. The process of changing sizes was fatiguing, however, making Giant Man more vulnerable to harm after successive changes. The accruement of mass in his expanded form augmented his bone and muscle tissue, granting him sufficient strength to support his additional weight. At 15 feet tall, Giant Man could lift, about 5 tons.